There are some stories that stick with you. Legends whispered around campfires, writings scrawled in old forums, tales passed down from somebody who swears they know someone who saw it. But every once in a while, a story comes along that just feels different, more than a myth. In July of 2023, I posted a video on the Gorge Crawler, a shadowy figure that some say lurks deep in Kentucky's Red River Gorge. A creature that moves wrong, watches from trees, and sometimes, just sometimes, follows you. It was just a discussion, another eerie legend to add to a long list of strange happenings in the gorge. But then this week, I got an email, because that video started to get views. A listener who heard our episode decided to go out there, alone. They wanted to prove that they were just that, stories. What they found instead? Bones, rituals, a gathering of hooded figures within a cave, and something else. Something that, according to them, wasn't human. They ran, they claim they barely made it out, and now they refuse to go back. Unless I go with them. Tonight, we're diving into their experience. We're reading their email in full and breaking down every terrifying detail. What did they really see? Was it a cult, a creature, or something worse? Welcome to the other side. Here is the email that I received in its entirety. Hey, the other side. I don't know if you'll read this on your podcast, but after listening to your video about the Wendigo-like creature in Red River Gorge, I just had to reach out, because I went there, and I saw something. I live about an hour from the gorge, so after hearing your episode on the Gorge Crawler, I decided to check it out myself. I know, classic horror movie mistake, but I grew up camping there, and I never saw anything remotely paranormal. So I figured I'd prove to myself that the stories you told were just that. Stories. I went out last Saturday, just before dusk. I parked near an old trailhead, one that's not as popular. I brought a flashlight and a knife just in case. I also had a backpack with a hammock and a cold-rated sleeping bag. I also had my phone, which was fully charged. I figured I'd hike a bit, maybe camp overnight if it felt safe. At first, everything was normal. The forest was quiet, but in that natural way. Birds, wind in trees, the usual sounds. But about an hour in my hike, I noticed something odd. The deeper I got, the quieter it got. No birds, no wind. Just stillness. Then I found the bones. At first I thought they were deer bones. A rib cage and a skull were nearby, but they were arranged in a pattern, laid out in a spiral, almost decorative. Around them, small symbols were carved into the dirt and into some tiny stones. I don't know what they meant, but they looked deliberate. I pulled out my phone to take a picture, but the lighting was awful, and no matter how many I took, they all came out blurry. I did my best to steady my hands, but the shadows in the dim light made it almost impossible to get a clear shot. I'm attaching the best one I managed to get. Hopefully you can make something of it. If you're watching the video podcast on the screen, this is the picture he attached. And that's when I heard it. A low, rhythmic chanting. I froze. It was distant, but it was definitely human voices. Maybe half a mile ahead. I killed my flashlight and I crept forward. I know, another classic horror movie mistake, but I had to see. At first, I thought the chants were coming from somewhere deeper in the forest, but as I walked, weaving between the trunks of trees, I realized the sound wasn't spreading through the open air. It sounded contained, echoing. It was coming from a cave or maybe a deep overhang in the rocks. I ended up finding it and I started walking toward the cave, drawn by the echoing chants that spilled from it within. The firelight in the cave flickered around a group of people, casting long, twitching shadows. As I got closer, I saw them clearly. A group of people, maybe about a dozen, stood in a circle around a massive stone. They wore dark robes, and their faces were hidden by hoods. I stepped closer, pressing myself against the rough stone at the cave's entrance. Inside, a massive stone slab loomed at the center of the gathering. Candles flickered around it, their trembling light barely cutting through the heavy darkness. And on the slab, it looked like there was a person. If it was a person, they weren't moving. As I watched, one of the hooded figures raised a knife. That's when I heard something behind me. A crunching of leaves. A hoarse breath. I spun around, but there's nothing. Just darkness. Then, from the trees, something moved. The shadows along the trees seemed to shift, even though nothing should have been casting the shadows. But when I saw it, someone or something stepped forward from the darkness. It was tall, too tall, gaunt. Its limbs were a little too long. Its movement seemed unnatural. It didn't walk like a person. It jerked forward in a sudden, unnatural burst. There 1 second, closer the next, like a skipping frame in a broken video. For a split second, I thought, maybe it's just a person. Maybe some lunatic in a mask, part of whatever twisted ritual this was that I walked in on. But then it turned its head toward me. Its face. There was something off about it. The way the firelight hit it, it was smooth and seemed hollow, like its skin was stretched too tight over the skull. And its eyes, they were dark, sunken pits, like they weren't eyes at all. I should have run right then. But what made my stomach drop, what made my breath catch in my throat, wasn't just it. It was the cultist. Because they weren't afraid. They weren't running. And then it clicked. They were chanting to it. Once I made that realization, I started to look for the clearest path to get out of there. And that's when its head snapped toward me. I didn't stay to find out what happened next. I'm not about that. I ran. Full sprint. I don't care how loud I was. I needed to get out of there. As I was running, I swear I heard it behind me, gaining ground, but I never looked back. Somehow I made it to the truck. I don't even remember unlocking the door. I just know the moment I slammed the door shut, the forest went completely silent again. I've not been able to get a night of sleep since then. I don't know what I saw. Was it actually a cult? Was that the crawler? Was it both of them? All I know is the story you posted wasn't just a story. And whatever is in Red River Gorge, it's real. I haven't been back since that night, and I won't go alone. But if you're willing, I want to show you. I know where the cave is. I can take you there, but I am not going at night. And if you say no, then I am never setting foot in that place again. I need someone to see it. I need someone to confirm that I'm not losing my mind. Because I swear, when I left that night and I slammed my truck door, I felt it. watching me, waiting for me. And I know, because I've read these stories now, if I go back, it'll somehow get me. Good Lord. Whew. I have goosebumps just like the first time I read that email. That was crazy to read again. So, you know, if you looked at my channel at all, I've covered a variety of stories on this channel: cryptids, hauntings, unsettling encounters. But this is different. I don't know what is waiting in that cave in Red River Gorge. I don't know if it's a cult or a creature or something worse, instant death. But I do know one thing. I am absolutely going to Red River Gorge. Now, I realize this has all the makings of a bad creepypasta, a mysterious email, check, an invitation to a remote haunted location, check, possible human sacrifice scenario, check. But I can't tell this guy no. I can't say no. So, if this channel suddenly stops uploading here soon, maybe send somebody looking for me, preferably somebody with lots of flashlights, guns, and absolutely zero interest in chanting in caves. I will keep you all updated. I will plan this excursion with this guy, and we'll see what happens. There may be a delay in videos here soon because I'm going to a conference, but you'll know when I head to Red River Gorge. So until then, stay curious, stay safe, and maybe stay out of the woods, especially in Kentucky. This has been The Other Side, and I'll see you soon. Hopefully.